like to welcome you to our fourth Lenten meditation. And as you will recall, that we are using the season of Lent to draw down more deeply on the life of the sacraments and of how the sacraments are those most precious moments when we see Christ truly at work in his church and in the world. This one is about the sacrament of holy matrimony, the sacrament of marriage. Most simply, marriage is about bringing together of man and woman, bringing life into the world, and through the bond of marriage, to nurture, to nourish, and to protect the children as they're formed into adults, and so the pattern of God's creation continues and is blessed. We also say that marriage is very much at the very heart of God's plan for creation. Indeed, to understand the significance, the purpose, the bringing forth of children in marriage, John Paul II, who spoke and wrote about this so much, said that to understand it properly, we have to go to the inner life of a Trinity, the life of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And marriage and the bringing of children into the world is literally marked by the life of a Trinity. That is why, on formal occasions, we might call marriage holy matrimony. In other words, that it is holy before it is human. We also need to state very clearly that we have to protect marriage, we have to nurture it, and we have to speak its truth, even at times that we may be challenged and questioned. Anything which is good and wholesome and beautiful needs to be protected and cared for and loved. As we journey in this season of Lent, we've spoken much about the love of God and of how God reaches into the world, of how he goes into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and reaches out to us in love. And we, in our Lenten practices, giving things up, perhaps visiting someone that we don't normally do, perhaps giving a little extra money to a charitable cause which is close to our heart, that we end up reflecting upon how we are being invited by love to do this. Literally, according to St. Paul, the love of Christ urges us on. So to be able to understand love and to speak of love, as we know that it's so much a part of cultural expression, of music, of dance, of literature, but there is no better way to understand love than to go to God, who is love, and in particular to go to the sacrament of matrimony, because there the love of God is lived out in the most real, the most physical, if you like, the most emotional and biological way. We say that in marriage, at its very simple but most profound level, that bride and groom give Christ to each other. Now that might seem a strange thing to say, but think upon it. If Christ is the fullness of love, if Christ is the perfection of love, to help your bride or your groom understand what love is and how much you love that person, then you are called to be Christ of them, as you meet Christ in them. Secondly, in marriage, that you are called, as a married person, to lead your spouse to heaven. I always say that when you have marriages that have gone on for many years, that when one dies, the other dies very soon afterwards. Certainly that was the case with my parents, that they died within 4 months of each other, having been married for 55 years. Literally, they could not live without the other. That is the nature of love. It changes us, it transforms us, and it makes us into the realization of Christ in the world. And that is why to meditate upon marriage during this season of Lent is no bad thing, because Lent is really a school of love. It's about disciplining ourselves so that we can love Christ more fully and thereby love our neighbor more completely. Where was the first miracle? The first miracle was at Cana, at Galilee. And it was a wedding feast. It was a wedding feast in which there were bride and groom, guests, stewards, the disciples there, Jesus and his mother, and that most important ingredient, wine, or the lack of wine. Jesus works his first miracle. Now, what is he teaching us? Two things, I think. First of all, he is teaching us that he wants marriage to be very much at the center of our human intercourse. And indeed, Jesus will speak at different times about the nature of marriage, the call to fidelity. Under the Mosaic law, you were unteachable, but I now say to you. And the words are very familiar to us. Jesus is clear and directed in his teaching on marriage, and he wants the first miracle to happen at a marriage feast. But also what is going on in the marriage feast at Cana is the preparation for what we call the Paschal mystery. That is the life, the death, the resurrection, and the sending forth of the Holy Spirit. Our Lenten journey is our journey to Holy Week. And in Holy Week, we will walk with Christ, we will die with Christ, and we will rise with Christ. And there is that strange moment in the marriage feast at Cana when Jesus says to his mother, "My time has not yet come." Now, what he is saying in those words very clearly is that I have not yet got to Calvary. I have not yet got to my passion. But what you, Mary, are saying about this wine running out is of the greatest significance. What Mary is saying to him, look, they've run out of wine. But more particularly, they have run out of love. They are thirsting for love. As they thirst for wine, so they are thirsting for love. And you, my son, the Messiah, the Son of God, are the one who can give them that love. That love will only be fully revealed at the Passion, when Jesus dies upon the cross. And what Mary and Jesus, through the words of John, the beloved disciple, are doing is that they are relating most intimately the marriage feast, the sacrament of marriage, with the Passion, with the fulfillment of our Lenten journey, the celebration of Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Why don't you read the marriage feast at Cana? Read about it both as a teaching upon marriage. Read about it as a spiritual meditation for your Lenten journey. Walk with Mary. She notices they are thirsting for love. Thirsting for wine, but they're thirsting for love, or the love of the Eucharist. She notices that. She brings it to her son's attention. Marriage is where we meet the love that we are called to live out in this season of Lent. So take your understanding of marriage, apply it to this Lenten journey. And then when you come to the great events of Holy Week, you will understand of how the teaching on love that Mary introduces us to takes us to the very heart of this mystery that we call Lent.